Welcome to For Every Response, the podcast from Emergency Services Times, sponsored by MSA Safety. In this series, we bring you sessions from the Emergency Services Show and the Emergency Tech Show 2025. Asked to set up a fire service in the remote region of the Himalayas, John Aitchison didn't hesitate, and building on his years establishing Fire Aid Nepal, he was the right person for the job. In this episode, he is joined by Dr. Matthew Lee, a specialist in the effects of climate change and public health, to talk about resilience and capability in one of the world's most challenging environments.
My name's John Aitchison. I'm a watch commander with the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, and I'm the project manager for Fire Aid Nepal, which comes under the charity Fire Aid and International Development. Today I'm here to talk about our project in Nepal, specifically our project in the Himalayas involving Everest Fire and Rescue, a fire and rescue service that I helped to set up 3 years ago. To my right is Dr. Matthew Lee, who will be talking about how we look at climate change and how the changing climate and the environment affects the fire and rescue service and the population of the Himalayas. But I'll start off with giving you a bit of a background to what brought me to the roof of the world. In 2015, there was a devastating earthquake, two earthquakes in Nepal, centering in a rural area. I was deployed there on behalf of the UK government as its official response, with a large team of 70 operators, including search dogs and medics. And one of my main jobs was to go into the far-reaching areas to get a body count and relay that back to the United Nations. That had quite a profound effect on me. I was going to very desperate places in need, villages that were completely wiped out. I was travelling with the British Gurkhas at the time as well, as detached the British Gurkhas. And the effect it had on me really was profound. And to get over that trauma, I dedicated myself to go back and make some difference. I was encouraged to go to a conference for Fire Aid, where there was like-minded people, and I met a gentleman called John Monaghan from Devon in Somerset Fire and Rescue, and John had already been in Nepal in years previous and wanted to build a bigger team. So the two of us went out that same year back into Kathmandu, and we started doing some research, some scoping visits, and seeing what was required. We named it Fire Aid Nepal, and that was 10 years ago, so it's literally after the earthquakes. It was our 10th anniversary this year. I go out to the country twice a year and spend 8 weeks a year in the country. Most of my time in the last 3 years is spent high up in the Himalayas, from Lukla.
We just flip to show the map.
Certainly, yep.
Yeah. Just to give everyone a reminder of where we're talking about in the world.
Yeah, so there's Everest, say Southeast Asia. Takes several hours to get there, as you can imagine.
Yeah. One more, that's it. Yeah.
Most of my work is done around, like I say, the Everest region itself. We can see Everest from where we are. 3 years ago, I was asked to go and work and try and get together a fire service from scratch. And again, today's talk is mainly about. The fire service is called Everest Fire and Rescue, and compromises of every village from Lukla, which we fly into. It did have the bad reputation of being the world's most dangerous airport. I have to say, I've never encountered any problems there. The safety is a lot better than what it used to be. And we work all the way up to Everest Base Camp and on both sides. And we train the ice doctors in trauma care and mountain rescue that will summit Everest and the surrounding mountains.
I think the next one's the airport.
This is Lukla Airport.
Is that the main runway?
That's our fire hydrants that were put in. The airport itself still doesn't have a fire hydrant. Since it was built nearly 50 years ago, it had no running water to the bottom of the airway. It had no cutting gear. The two firefighters were not trauma care trained. We now have a fully working fire and rescue team in Lukla itself, who work with the aviation authority. So when there is a disaster, they can step in. They can provide water to the bottom of the runway. The very bottom of the runway was susceptible to crashes. It ends in a cliff face, which you can't see. At the top of the runway ends in a cliff face. It's 500 meters long at a gradient. So you come in and it's a very skilled pilot, has to slow down as they go uphill.
John, can I ask you, were there any sort of people doing sort of rescue or any of that sort of work? How did you find people to become members of this?
There was absolutely nothing. I was because of the work I was doing in Kathmandu and Pokhara and the surrounding area with the armed forces, teaching them urban search and rescue and firefighting. I was heard of and I was asked to go to Lukla to do a scoping visit.
Right.
There was nothing there at all. There was no fire crews in the whole area. They didn't have a fire service. So I went in, I established who would be good to train. We put in a fire board consisting of their local healthcare, local government, and we put in place the chief of the fire service in the area, and other local officials. So the chief of the fire service, Sonam Sherpa, he reports to a board of governors, so he's accountable. The board of governors are accountable to the local government, who are accountable to the local people of the Pasung Lamu area, the surrounding area.
Right.
So yeah, before I was there was absolutely nothing. Over the last 3 years, we've put in water supplies. The chief of the fire service, very clever man, installed hydrant system and water supplies. He continues to upgrade it. Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, who we've partnered with, we've got an MOU with Everest Fire and Rescue Service, have supplied multiple tons of equipment to the area and continue to do so. We've also had some private donors come in and help to bankroll that as well with supplying equipment as well.
Yeah.
So we started in Lukla, and then as word grew, we moved all the way up to just about Everest Base Camp. Gokyo, where we're about to go to in the next few weeks as well. So every area has got a basic firefighting crew. Along with that, I take out trained doctors. So Matthew Lee always believe in subject matter experts training the local population. Unfortunately, in the past, I have had some people come in who are not fire service. They're not qualified instructors, who have tried to train, and unfortunately, it's been to the wrong standard. So when I go over, I take in qualified instructors. If they're not qualified instructors, they're experienced firefighters who work under qualified instructors or doctors. So Matthew comes out and he trains in the pre-hospital trauma care.
What sort of incidents are they seeing then? Is it mainly rescue type work that they have to do?
There's absolutely, we tie in with the local clinics, so that's at Jessup Principles. We tie in with the army, the police, the local hospital, which is just, unfortunately, it's uphill from the airport. So if anybody gets injured, they've got to walk a fair distance uphill, and we've been involved in carrying people up to that hospital on our missions. Right. So yeah, the joint principles, and there's, it's. Sorry, what was your question? Sorry.
I'm just curious about the types of incidents you're having to train the
types
people
of
to deal
incidents.
with.
So there are helicopter crashes, plane collisions with helicopters, misjudgment on the runway. Thankfully, hasn't happened for a couple of years. Yeah. All types of medical incidents. There is no roads in the Khumbu. There's nothing at all. It's all track.
Right.
So it's either a donkey ride. Higher up, you're going to back of a yak, or it's handballed. There was no stretchers. They were making their own stretchers. Generally, they would go in the back of somebody. So you can imagine somebody falling off the track, being injured in a mountain environment, spinal injuries, and they're strapped to the back of somebody, or they're strapped onto a donkey. Right. So now we've introduced, proper stabilisation, manual handling. We've given them stretchers, as well as the firefighting equipment.
And what led you to get Matthew involved?
So like I said, I always believe in training with subject matter experts. I was working in another medical faculty with Matthew, pre-hospital care in the mountains. And we got talking at Glenmore Lodge in Aviemore. Right. And I was doing a talk on the subject, and Matthew was interested. And
so can I get you to elaborate how you got involved?
I should probably do some talking as well, I think. Yeah. Just checking the mic is working and everyone can hit. Perfect.
Grab that and I'll move these forward.
So my name is Dr. Matthew Lee. I am a paediatric doctor based in North Wales. Alongside that, I'm the sustainability lead for an organisation called Doctors Association UK, which is an independent advocacy organisation led by volunteer doctors and medical students, with the aim to improve working conditions and campaign for better working conditions in the NHS. One of my particular interests is climate change and how climate change affects health, not only overseas in countries in Nepal and across the world, but also how climate change affects us in the UK, how it affects healthcare professionals and our patients as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in due course. My involvement with Fire Aid International was originally through the medical sphere. So I'm also interested in wilderness medicine, expedition medicine, and talking with John, there was a significant overlap in our interests and how best we could use mine and other medical education skills to train the firefighters in the Everest Fire and Rescue in the Everest region. I think it's important to say also that prior to Everest Fire and Rescue being set up, there was no pre-hospital service in that area. Certainly no public pre-hospital service. There was private helicopters that if you were rich enough, you could afford to have healthcare. And on the helicopters situation, that's a controversial thing in itself. The amount of wealth that passes through that region but never makes it to the people that need it is astonishing. We came across people that had had day trips, weekend trips from the UK to Nepal to fly and see Everest to go back in time for work on Monday. We're talking that level of wealth, and that doesn't reach the local communities.
No.
So,
but I was just going to say, the local people are dealing with a lot, though. Do you want to just describe what this picture's showing, and I'll show the couple of others that you see?
Yeah, sure, because we've completely ignored the clicker, haven't we? So this is one of the floods, one of the glacial lake floods that happened in a village near to Namche Bazaar. That's one of the main villages that you would go through if you were trekking to Everest Base Camp.
Right.
This was a glacial lake outburst, which we'll talk a little bit more about later on.
Yeah.
But just beforehand, this is some of the medical training that we were delivering. We went into some of the local clinics and supported them with developing their basic life support skills and their intermediate life support skills. And we were also very much involved in training the fire and rescue crew how to stabilize a patient and effectively support them to become both the pre-hospital medical care service and the fire and rescue service.
And did the people that you were training, did they receive the training well? Have they been positive about engaging and becoming the fire service?
Yes, absolutely. And now we've got literally about 400 firefighters throughout the Khumbu, and that's growing. We try and reach a new couple of villages every time I go out, out twice a year.
Right.
So it's expanding all the time. We talk about subject matter experts.
Yeah.
Emily, the doctor in this picture, she is a doctor with EMRS in Glasgow, it's Emergency Medical Retrieval in Glasgow. Came out the same time as Matthew, and that was visiting one of the clinics in Namche Bazaar.
Right.
On the right, we've got Jess, who is Jess Ward, is a mountain rescue instructor in North Wales.
Ah.
So when we go high up, a lot of the teams also branch into mountain rescue.
Right.
And a lot of the people that we train are called the ice doctors. So the ice doctors are the people that go and fix the fixed lines to the top of Everest.
Oh, okay.
So for us,
so what everyone else
in the west, we clip on.
Yeah.
It's not alpinism, so it's not free climbing. We clip on and we quite easily go up in these ropes. Somebody needs to put the ropes in.
Right. Okay.
And these are the high-end mountaineers that we train for the mountain rescue.
And these are some of the environments you're operating in then. I'm just going to flick through some of these.
Yeah, so
talk about each one,
there's a place called Ding. That is a Scottish Fire and Rescue Service otter pump that was donated by our chief, Stuart Stevens. And the people in the orange, they just happen to be the local monks from the monastery.
Wow.
So that's half of your firefighting team, because in the Himalayas, quite often villages will leave when the weather gets very, very cold.
Right. But
the people that stay are the monks. The monks never leave the area.
Right.
So I was approached by the local lama. He had a big long beard, but he wanted to put on the fire kit. He wanted trained, because he says to me, John, wherever he goes, it's me that's left with my monks, so we have to be the firefighting team.
Right.
So we got them in, and we had about 20 monks, as well as the local guys and girls as well in the team.
Okay.
It's important to note as well that the caveat that I put forward when I go to do the training, because I've got the MOU with the local government, is that as far as reasonably possible, 50% boys, 50% girls. It's the caveat we always put forward when we do our training.
Right.
Quite often we've found, though, which is unusual, like in this country, we find that in some areas, especially Lukla and Dingboche, which is 4,400 metres, most of the firefighters are females.
Right.
So you get a nearly all-female crew.
Right.
Which is strange because we're used to in this country it's predominantly
Completely the other
males.
way, absolutely.
Yeah.
Most fire
But
services
in
require
Nepal,
that.
it seems to be that the women put themselves forward for that rescue role more than the males.
Okay.
It's a culture, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And some of the other shots here, you mentioned helicopters a moment ago, so that's obviously some privileged people getting rescued, is it?
Yeah, it is. So when we've been out, we've not by choice, not by planning, but we've come across rescues and get involved in rescues. So the one on the right that's Kai, Kai was dotting about here as one of our operators, former Scottish Fire and Rescue Service.
Right.
Happened to be trekking in Nepal when we were there, around about the same area.
Right.
I asked for 5 boys, 5 girls. 42 people turned up.
Wow.
I knew Kai was in the area, and I phoned her. Kai, can you make your way up and help us out? Because I knew she had some basic training. So
Right.
Kai helped out our instructors out there. So that was Kai.
Amazing.
That one there was a young lad who he was actually a student monk.
Right.
10-year-old, had a broken mid-shaft femur.
Right.
We went up with a rescue helicopter, got him stretchered and got him off to Kathmandu.
Okay.
The one on the right, I had literally finished teaching the MIB stretcher to a crew in Namche Bazaar,
Right.
and the local clinic came running down saying, we've got somebody, they've fallen off a horse and they've got a tib-fib fracture.
Right.
Can you help? And I just says to the guys, now you've been trained, now you know what you're doing, let's grab the stretcher. And that one was literally 5 minutes after teaching. The local crew used the stretcher that we donated.
Right. Very good.
So
Very good.
every time it's like a curse, you know. Every time we've been across, we've been involved in rescues. Again, not planning, not by choice. We just happened to be there.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to see your equipment that you've donated and used
Yeah. Absolutely.
being used for real. And I get texts, I get phone calls quite often by crews, either for advice or just letting me know that the stuff has been used. Yesterday, I got a lovely message from one of our operators at 5,000 metres telling me I just rescued a gentleman with some of the kit we donated.
Right.
That gentleman would have died unless they had that specific equipment,
Okay.
oxygen, stretcher and thermal blankets.
Okay.
And what was really nice and rewarding whilst we were training them as well was seeing the progression and the confidence that they had, particularly with regards to the extraction side of things. One of the scariest experiences I had while I was over there was being a mock patient on a 1 kilometre extraction from one side of the valley across a very rickety rope bridge down across the other side of the valley. And you could really, that was thankfully at the end of the training, not at the start of the training. I might not be here if it was at the start. But you could really see how confident they were in passing me as the casualty between people. Their rapport with the casualty built, their confidence in communicating and constantly assessing really developed during that period as well.
I just want to, you mentioned before when we were talking about the importance of the cultural aspects of operating in this area. So do you want to speak to that a little bit as well?
Yeah, so I mean, the culture in Nepal and in the Khumbu area is beautiful. It was my first time over into that area last year, and we were all welcomed with open arms. It's that there's a concept, there's a thought process sometimes that British people going overseas to deliver medical aid or deliver medical care and then stepping away can be sort of seen as a white saviour complex. It's not typically an appropriate thing to be doing. This was completely the opposite. This was us being invited as people of expertise and becoming a part of the community for the time that we're there, but not just the time that we're there, also ongoing afterwards. I've had WhatsApp messages from various people over there just saying, hi, how are you doing? And really fostering that two-way friendship. And religion is a big part of their community as well, their spiritual aspects within. So Buddhism is one of the predominant religions over there. We were invited to some of the ceremonies. We were donned with ceremonial scarves at the end of each of our trips, at the end of each of our trainings. And it was something that I think was really special to us going over and being so welcomed, and also really special to them. It was a proper partnership.
Okay.
Yeah, people quite often ask us, why do you do it? What's, I max my credit card constantly and constantly in debt to get flights to get over. And I'll be honest, I've put the family in the back burner quite a lot of the time. And some people say, your family forgiving? Not always. No, I'll be honest about it. But it was a dedication that I had to make to myself to put some old ghosts to rest, I think, in the first deployment. Also, why do we do it? We do it because we get that text messages. There's somebody being saved with equipment. That's enough. We get blessings when we're over by the local monastery. We see places that are way off the tourist map. We go to places that are not in your normal Everest Base Camp route. We are right in the sticks.
Yeah.
We're working with local people. We're staying in the local people's house. We're eating with them. That's why we do it. We also get privileged enough to work with the local in Kathmandu, some of the biggest orphanages. When I first went out, the orphanages were filled with young kids that had lost their parents from the earthquake. So again, that was quite touching to me to be able to go out to fit smoke detectors. That trip there was out with a former colleague, Andy Broomfield, and Andy donated through his business to the school 100 new mattresses, because I'd visited the orphanages. That particular orphanage the year before, and the mattresses were terrible. I was in tears with the state of the orphanage. So Andy says, right, I'm going to buy you mattresses, I'm going to buy bedding, duvets, and the rest of the money you can just get. We bought rice and food for them. Wow. But to then go back and see the kids' faces that have got a clean bed to sleep in, it just
very rewarding.
That's enough reward. It's amazing. You get that back. You see a happy face. It's like, that's why we do it.
Okay.
We work at altitude. We're up above 5,000 meters. It's hard on the body. I'm not getting any younger. I feel it. When I was out with Matthew, we were just talking about it. I got rather sick. It was due to gluttony on my part. I ate something I shouldn't have done. I luckily had the team doctors on hand to guide me through that experience.
Don't eat the chocolate chip brownies if ever you go.
This episode of the Emergency Services Times podcast is sponsored by MSA Safety, proudly supporting emergency services and first responders on the front line. At MSA Safety, protecting first responders isn't just what we do, it's who we are. We work closely with fire and rescue services across the UK to develop and deliver safety solutions designed to meet your ever-evolving needs. That includes MSA Bristol Firefighter PPE, trusted by services across the UK and beyond, shaped through years of collaboration with frontline teams. It also includes our growing investment in innovation and technology, from the connected M1 SCBA modular solution to our agile, fully managed service model that helps keep crews protected and ready to respond. But for us, safety goes beyond equipment. We believe in standing shoulder to shoulder with the people who dedicate their lives to protecting others, whether it's supporting firefighter charities, backing mental health initiatives, or showing up for community events. MSA is proud to be part of the Emergency Services family. To learn more about our work in the UK and how we're supporting first responders every step of the way, visit www.msasafety.com. With MSA Safety, when you go in, we go in with you.
So emerging challenges, but let's not think of them as emerging challenges. Let's think of them as present challenges. And the present challenge of our time is climate change. I was reading on the train as I came down here that this summer alone, and we're thinking closer to home now, 16,000 people died in Europe because of climate change. For the avoidance of all doubt, climate change is happening. It is caused by humans, by burning fossil fuels, and there is a scientific consensus that that is the case, greater than the vast majority of other things that we've explored in science. These are some of the fires that Nepal experienced back in 2023. Forest fires are a really big problem over there, and they're becoming worse as the snow line starts creeping up, as the dry season becomes longer. And all along the terrain, we've got lots of ground tinder, basically. So it's absolutely rife for just catching fire. Part of the way that they fertilize the fields is by building bonfires on the fields and then setting fire to them and burning all of these dried leaves. Obviously, then you've got sparks, all of the smoke associated with that, the air pollution, and it's causing a real issue. Nepal is the fourth most vulnerable country in the world to climate change. And that really plays a big part of what we're doing and what we're why Everest Fire and Rescue is so important to set up. This is the beautiful village of Tame. It's about a day's walk away from Namche Bazaar. This was before last August. This was during last August. And this was shortly afterwards. This was a consequence of a glacial lake outburst. The glacial lakes over there are formed because the glaciers are melting faster than the ground around them can stabilize, meaning that the walls of the lake are very prone to rupturing and bursting. This was quite a small one. This was about 0.2 square kilometers. The largest that they've got over there is between 2 and 20 kilometers square. This glacial lake travelled 5 miles down the valley to completely wipe out the village of Tame. No one was hurt by pure chance. It was in the middle of the day, and the locals described hearing this massive helicopter overhead. The ground started shaking. The kids weren't at school, and then they saw something happening up the valley, and they all made their way up the sides of the slope and just watched as their livelihoods and their homes were stripped away from them. These are some of the boulders that were washed down the valley. And these are some of the people walking on those boulders, just so you can see the size and scale of the destruction that was happening. These are some of the cracks in the ground. And if you look specifically at the housing line at the top, you can see that the houses that were remaining were already starting to sink. All of that land, or a lot of that land, has disappeared in the last month or so, just because the land has slipped away. Oh, that's all of those. So really, I guess what I'm trying to say is climate change is a big problem for everyone, but particularly in the countries that don't have the finances to be able to adapt to the challenges of climate change. While we were over there, we were experiencing this really weird contrast between the highest polluting people in the world, the richest 1%, the richest 10%, which includes your average trekker who might just be going there for the trek of a lifetime, but that is more money than many people can accumulate in their whole lifetimes. And these people were walking through there, they were requesting pizzas, burgers, croissants being flown up to Everest Base Camp that were fresh from the bakery in Kathmandu. Lots of heads being shaken, but this is the reality that we were seeing. All the while we were walking through these villages, and there were people that, you know, their doors were basically cloth curtains in front of the buildings. It was really difficult to see. And what's really interesting about Nepal is that they're now undergoing this particularly dietary transition, where their diet is now becoming less sustainable by incorporating more meat products, more dairy products. And that's because of Western influence. The counter to that is that the Nepal diet is really, really sustainable. It's predominantly lentils, it's predominantly rice. We were eating vegetables that they'd grown just in their garden, and that is their sustenance. So what we were doing when we were talking to the locals was helping provide them with the facts and the evidence base to just make them think, actually, what if they used their culture to promote that to all of these rich tourists that were going through? What if they advocated for climbing Mount Everest on beans and on lentils? Don't worry about the beef burgers and whatnot, because our Sherpas have been doing it for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and we can skip up there and look at you Western tourists slugging it away, eating a pizza or whatever.
Chocolate brownies.
Yeah. So there's a real opportunity for cross-education, collaboration there to encourage us as Westerners to change our habits when we come back home to become more sustainable.
Well,
and I would
there as well, I would suggest.
And there, so that they don't have the health problems that we're facing. They won't experience the obesity crisis that we're facing. They won't experience the the heart disease crises that we're experiencing.
I'm really keen to take some questions from the audience. So, but what I just want to do is summarise. So, through almost a professional experience in going out to respond to a national disaster, you've created this amazing thing. Have you built fire stations there?
No, so the fire stations that we've got at the moment one of them's in a bank. We've got the corridor in the bank is Lukla Fire Station at the moment.
Right.
We've got some storage area in a council building. It's not ideal.
Yeah.
In Namche, stuff are getting stored in a shed, which is in really bad condition, and the same as in other areas. So at the moment, I'm looking for investment to build a fire station in Namche
All right.
and Lukla as well. So Namche Bazaar is the capital of the Himalayas. You think of a capital, yes, it does have high-rise buildings, but there's no roads.
Right.
So it needs your 13.5, your 10.5 ladders and all
Yeah.
expertise. It needs somewhere to store them.
Yeah.
I'm a firefighter, I'm a watch commander. I can't afford to build a fire station myself.
No.
I'm barely affording to get 2 flights a year. So I'm looking for investments. I have got the authority through an MOU with the local government to look for investors.
Yeah.
They can put their name on the building. They can advertise as much as you want. I think the next slide's the rescue box.
Yeah, probably at the end. Yeah,
So-
I think it is. If I can't get mine to work. Can you? I was just going to say, I mean, you've achieved a lot because you've managed to train a load of local people. You've got them active. You've got donations of kit going in. You're also now delving into educating and changing behaviours, which is amazing. So I think this is an extraordinary story. But what I want to do is give the audience a chance to ask you some questions,
Sure,
if that's
yeah.
okay.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Fantastic achievement so far. Congratulations on all you've done. I'm just wondering if there is any contribution coming from the very lucrative mountaineering industry that is based around Everest and the very wealthy companies that run those expeditions.
Good question.
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
At this particular moment, lots of companies are being approached. We have no major investors at the moment from that companies. I am working on it through a Himalayan trust to train mountain guides in mountain rescue and supply some equipment. I'm hoping off the back of that something will come. Mountain equipment, the brand Mountain Equipment has given us some help in the past in the very early stages, and it continue to be a partner with us. But there hasn't as such been any major investments, like I say, to build the fire stations, which will take tens of thousands of pounds. When I say a fire station, I mean a big shed. It doesn't need a fire replacement.
Quite a
There's
good
no-
idea, though. Quite a good idea, I think, in terms of those companies.
Yeah.
Let's take another
I
question.
think just to add to that as well, though, there's while we were there and talking to the locals, there is this difficult ethical boundary of which companies would be appropriate to be supporting and be investing in the area. I think some of the locals were quite frustrated by particularly overseas companies bringing their own guides, bringing their own equipment, and then pretty much just using it as accommodation and food and nothing else, and not using the local services. So we need to be quite careful with that balance of, if we were going to have a UK company supporting us, we don't want to be endorsing that company to the extent that it's taking away business from local communities.
There has been companies testing their equipment because we work at high altitude, and the ice doctors at work with us as part of the volunteer teams. They work as far as Everest summit. There has been companies approach us to test equipment.
Yeah.
So SP Services, they're here today. They've given us various equipment from different companies
Right.
to test altitude, and it has been used to some of it to great effect.
Okay.
So you can report straight back with data that
Yeah.
So if there is companies today that are looking to test their equipment,
Yeah.
they can certainly approach.
That's a great idea as well.
yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Hi, my name's Sam. I represent a number of different organisations, including #NotGurung. I don't know if you guys have heard of that.
Sorry, could you move your microphone closer
Bit
to your face?
closer, yeah.
How about now? Is that
Lovely.
better?
Perfect.
Never like these things. So one of my key questions was going to be, what kind of things do you guys feel like you need from the people here today? What can we do to help you out? There's a whole range of things that myself and the organisations that I work with could certainly do. I'd love to chat to you more, Matt, about Doctors in Distress as well, as a bit of a side note, see if you're aware of those guys.
Yeah,
and then #NotGurung. You've heard it here first. We'll be in touch and we'll give you some support and reference your desire for the fire station. Yeah, we'll sponsor that 100%.
Just to kind of quickly answer that question as well. The pressing thing for the instructors going across is the cost of flights. So for me to fly across from, I live in Aberdeen, you're talking about the guts of £1,400 twice a year. That's got a shelf life as well. And just to touch on that one as well, 3 years ago I gave 10 years to this project. Because I'd run other projects elsewhere on a 10-year basis, it says I don't want to keep coming back here. One, I'm burning a hole in the atmosphere by travelling too much. I feel it's too much. But I feel that there is a positive outcome to my travelling in a jet across the world. I'd like to leave at the end of that, but at the moment, the pressing kind of cost is flights for instructors.
Yeah.
It does cost them, and it puts a lot of really good people that I would like to take across off, especially people with young families that can't afford to go over.
Yeah.
And again, really, that apart from that, parking that aside, it's building the fire stations, putting in more infrastructure. At the moment, it's basic firefighting. There's no breathing apparatus because I believe breathing apparatus first needs infrastructure to go in, compressors, people to train people on compressors. Then we're moving into BA sets. Then we're moving in to training people in BA. So that is, for the next 3 years, I'll be looking at that. So there is certain costs that do come in with that and building the fire stations. So if that answers your...
Certainly scope. Excellent. Thank you.
Hello. I just wanted to ask about the pre-existing pre-hospital care for before you came in. Were you stepping on any toes there, or have you just added?
Sorry, I missed the.
I think she was asking about the pre-hospital care. Was there anything in place? Were you coming in and treading on anyone's toes, or were you actually, solving?
Sure, yeah. So, no, there were no toes that were being trod on. In the Everest Valley region itself, there, other than sort of local mountain guides and the big private companies that had professional extraction teams, there wasn't any, there was basically no pre-hospital service for any of the locals. There wasn't anything like that. To date, there still officially isn't, which is why Everest Fire and Rescue is basically being adapted.
That changed recently.
Yes,
So-
yeah. Oh, has it?
Yeah. So the Himalayan Trust has given it free hospital clinic care to locals
Oh, no.
since you left.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. But from a pre-hospital perspective, that is going to be adopted by the Everest Fire and Rescue team, and that will become both the pre-hospital and the fire and rescue service.
Yeah. Okay. We have another question here.
Yeah, hi, sorry. Darryl Green, London Fire Brigade. I'm sure you probably have considered it or approached them, but can't the Nepalese government tax these companies, these tour operators, so they can reinvest? I know, for example, Las Vegas, they charge a percentage from all the casinos for their fire service, so they get new trucks pretty much every other year. Can not the Nepalese government not do something similar?
So, good question. So we work through the local Pasang Lamu government. They work through the central government. I do stay completely out of politics, absolutely 100%. What I will say though is the local Pasang Lamu government does give the fire service a very small budget. And that budget for us, because we've got to be open and transparent about it, that budget for us does get me and the team from Kathmandu to Lukla, and it does give us the interpreter, and it does give us our food and accommodation. So we'll say there is investment from local government. It is very small. It is a very poor country, and we've got to remember that. It's a very, very poor country. I agree. I think that the big multinational companies that come in that charge an extortionate amount should give more back to the local population. But that's not somewhere where I would interfere with. There's a boundary where I go, and politics is that boundary, and I do not get involved in local. But you're absolutely and 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
That should be the case.
It's a delicate area, isn't it? The politics.
There are tourist taxes as well, but I think one of the things that they're quite concerned about is putting tourists off attending in the first place, which for us going over there, it was quite surreal. When was the tourist tax 20 quid to enter the
£20.
It was about 20 quid for
It's recently gone up.
Yeah,
about £4
to 25, 30 pounds or something.
Yeah, so that's going into the national park.
Yeah.
So that's getting into the national park, and when you think that people have already paid, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 grand to get over there and have that whole experience, and just at that time, £20 of that was going into the national park. There's this clear sort of, I don't even know, disconnect between what they feel is appropriate versus what actually people would be prepared to pay, provided they knew it was going into things that contributed.
The conversation happens, but like I say, we are very careful that we are not imposing our will on that people, and we are invited in, so that's why I don't get involved in the political.
Hi, my name is Michael. I'm a paramedic and I volunteer in Nepal as well. So my question is about funding. So can you break down exactly what the funding structure is? Is it entirely self-funded by the volunteers themselves, and then you just have kits on top
Yeah.
of that, or is there some funding for
So
the expenses?
it is flights are self-funded. Sometimes grants will come in. Sometimes donors will come in. Working closely with Fire Aid and international development, we do a lot of fundraisers throughout the year. Fundraise through fire stations as well. So funds do come in. If the funds are not there, I'll bankroll it. That's how it goes, and the other members of the team will bankroll it. It always happens twice a year. We get the kit there, we do the job. Sometimes I'm in great debt, sometimes I'm not. But I say there's never been that major funder. I'm always waiting because it's such a great opportunity. We work, some of our guys work on the summit of Everest. For a company to come in to get their badge on the summit of Everest.
Yeah.
We've got rescue boxes going in at Everest Base Camp that have to be put there back and forward every year. Some company could come in. I'm putting it out there.
Yeah. Just to say, the sort of simplistic image we got on the screen, these are, if anyone's thinking of wanting to make a donation, picking up your point here as well, if there is anything the audience can do today, donations are welcome, because clearly that's how you've had to get a lot of equipment so far, right?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not always in debt, but quite often during the year, my family will be, at me, why can't we go on holiday? Because you're going to Nepal.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So.
That's impressive. I think the one thing I want to reflect on is, and say to the audience, if there's anything I'd ask of the audience today, is if you're thinking of going a trek up Everest, please don't go and ask for pizza or croissant or westernised food. Eat the beans, eat the lentils, because I'm sure it's a bit better for you.
Yeah.
So is there any other final questions at all from the floor? Thank you.
You've already answered about the fire station, but there's a lot of people here with a lot of kit that I'm sure if they knew about the message, and you guys do an excellent job of sharing that might be able to contribute kit.
Yeah.
Do you want kit? What kit do you want?
Yes,
Do you want people?
absolutely. Anything bar fire engines. We don't need fire engines, but we do work with the Gurkha Welfare Trust. We do work with some fire stations in the Kathmandu Valley and Pokhara. There is roads there, so there is an opportunity for fire engines. In the Himalayas, small light propelled pumps, hard suction, hose, PPE, any trauma kit you can throw our way.
Yeah.
And rope rescue stuff. You were starting a rescue service from scratch.
Yeah. And presumably medical supplies.
Medical supplies.
Yeah,
medical supplies.
I was going to say our medical supplies are all donated as well. And in answer to your question, we are also self-funded, so we pay our way to get over there, and we're supported in country. There were a couple of, I think there was a ton or so of medical kit that was brought out, donated by various hospitals because it had expired, so the hospitals couldn't use it. But that would be things like trauma dressings. But also within that as well, there was a lot of equipment that it sometimes felt like the hospitals were just getting rid of it because that's what they wanted to do. So, for instance, we had loads and loads of eye gels that were for people probably 90 to 100 kilos plus. And if you think of the average Nepali person being about my height or less, what we're being provided with isn't necessarily what it is that we need to be using over there. I guess if we're wrapping up, just one final point from me on your earlier question of what can you do, what do we want you to do to help? My number one message actually would be, how can we tackle climate change? How do we talk about that as emergency services? I think it's quite ironic that, climate change is going to be affecting everyone here so greatly, particularly in the emergency services area. And just across the way, we've got the environmental services show, which is talking about climate change. These two things need to start aligning. We need to start talking about climate change as a health issue. We need to start talking about it in terms of lives saved, in terms of casualties avoided, in terms of costs saved as well, because it's coming. There's nothing we can do to stop it altogether. Changes will happen, deaths will come because of climate change, they already are. But we can minimize how bad it gets. And we can do that together. And particularly as the health sector, particularly as the emergency services sector, that are those that are seeing the effects of climate change on the front line, we are probably the best people to talk about it. We're probably the best people to educate the public. And I would encourage anyone to for more information to check out the resource that we've designed. It's free and accessible. It's called ourhealthourplanet.co.uk. The idea is to make climate change communication more accessible for healthcare professionals and also for the public as well, specifically on why climate change is a health issue. We do have a page on there specifically for pre-hospital services. And following this amazing show that I have never been to before, and I'm overwhelmed by how much there is, I'd definitely be looking in expanding information on the fire, the police, and other services as well. So
Okay.
yes, do check that out.
Excellent. We are really out of time now. Is there anything you want to end with, John?
If you're a firefighter or a paramedic or a doctor or somebody that thinks they can contribute on the project itself, coming out to Nepal, come and see me. Let's have a chat.
Excellent. Thank you. Can I ask you to thank our panel in the traditional way? Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks for listening. Remember that by taking time to learn from our speakers, you can earn CPD points from our partner CPDme. So do check out the link in the show notes. Our thanks to MSA Safety for their continued support for our podcast and Smart Digital for producing this series. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to For Every Response, the podcast from Emergency Services Times.